Hello, I'm Marlis Arnold, trade show marketing consultant and author of the book, Build a Better Trade Show Image. Welcome to the Trade Show Insights podcast with news, tips, and tools to expand your knowledge of exhibiting. In honor of the 40th anniversary of Earth Day, we're taking a look at how the trade show industry is going green, including an inside scoop on the latest Accepted Practices Exchange, better known as APEX, initiative. Our guest today is Scott McKye from KleerTech, and he has been very involved in the green initiatives within the meetings and convention industry. So, Scott, we're anxious to hear the latest on what's happening with green initiatives.
Well, I'm glad to share it with you. We started, I guess, back in the early 90s with just a basic recycling program. And we did that about 3 years for a lot of the major shows. When I say major, I'm talking about 10,000 people and greater. And what we came up with then versus what seems to be happening now is pretty exciting, at least to my way of thinking. We found that basically once you had anything over 500 people, in terms of saying let's recycle the badge holders at the event, that you had diminishing returns in a lot of ways. You had a lot of packaging and you had a lot of grooming. But just the other day, I was talking to some people that are on the committee that I'm on for communications and marketing, and they've actually been able to raise that up to 5,000 people. It was a figure I would have never, ever believed. And what they did was they got volunteers to help them in the grooming process, and they were very meticulous about saving all the packaging. So they've been able to use their badge holders. They really didn't know how many times now they'd use them, but that's an excellent way to get some mileage out of something that's old and easy and that everybody has to do, because everybody seems to have a badge holder. It's like going to the prom without your dress. You just don't do it. So
well, and that's one of those simple steps to take. I mean, there's no point in. I know over the years I've brought home, I can't tell you how many badge holders from various shows, and I don't really need them, I mean, right. Otherwise they get thrown in the trash. So it's such a simple step to take, as long as, like you said, you've got to think it through and have the process in place to actually manage that.
Another thing that has happened is that how many times you go to an event, and whether it be a conference or a trade show, and they give you a bag and they think they're being helpful, and it's either an inexpensive bag or it's a very nice one. Sometimes $10 a piece, depending upon what you've paid for that conference. But invariably, the more events you go to, the more bags you end up with. That how many bags can you possibly have? So a very simple fix that we've come up with is that in the pre-registration forms, if you just gave a person an option of do they really want a bag, you'll be surprised at how many people just opt out of those. You don't have to have, a one-to-one ratio. You can always bring some, for the people that walk on, or local traffic or something, walk up, and then you can cover that. I think about 10% of whatever you have as your pre-reg figure should be fine for that. But that's a big expenditure that you don't have and a big waste at the end of the event for those that don't get used. And another one would be if you collaborate with the decorator. In recycling, I realize you have to have a place to do this, but if you take the badge holders and the table the table coverings, all of that material is highly priced when it comes to recycling. Recyclers pay top dollar for clear, and they pay second to the top dollar for white. So most tabletops are white. Instead of having them pitched that away in a dumpster, you make sure and have them collected, and at the end of the event, there's several services that we're aware of now that will actually come and pick it up for you at the end of the event. You just need to
Wow.
know who to contact, and then they'll pay you, and you don't really have to do anything with it.
Well, and that's really smart because, the badge holders I think about, I wouldn't think about the table skirt or the table covers being something that you could recycle. So, again, it's a simple step that everybody can take if they're just made aware of it, and that somebody actually takes that initiative to, like you said, line up the recycler to come and pick those up.
Some of the biggest mistakes that I think that you see happening anymore is not really something that a lot of people can avoid, because there's a lot of people that really are well-meaning, well-intentioned. They want to do the right thing, but there's so much two things happening: greenwashing and technology advances. I know that people think in terms of, say, like you want to have a lanyard. And so they think, well, why not, a cotton or maybe even, a bamboo? I mean, that's organic, that grows fast. Why not bamboo? And then they don't realize that something like bamboo, to turn it into a usable fiber, actually turns it right back into something the same chemical basis as rayon, which is a totally synthetic product. It can't even be composted, or it's not biodegradable any.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of things that people don't realize that they put on the different kind of labels, and they say this product is, it's recyclable. But if you have to know where to recycle these products, it's just one thing after another that is basically greenwashing, whether it's intended or not. I assume that it's not intended by the vendor, but the best thing to do is to take every product that you buy from people and ask, have they had that certified? What are they using when they make that claim? Who's independently certified that product is actually being, what content recycled? Where could you take these bags at the end of the event and have them be recycled? Because in most cases, you can't. And that's a big problem, because they find these out later on. Another one would be...
Well, and like you said, they're trying, they think they're doing the right thing. They're trying to be proactive, but they don't have a full understanding of what actually goes on behind the scenes.
There are materials out there that are called biopolymers. They're made from corn, typically. Mm-hmm. And so your tableware and these kind of products where you think, well, these are sustainable products because they're made from corn. But then you find out that the only way those products will actually compost, that's not biodegrade, it's composting, and it can only be done in 19 states with an industrial strength composter. So you have to look at the map and see if your event is in one of those states that's got an industrial composter. It's those kind of things that happen rapidly, and your best sources are those people that knock themselves out at trying to find a way to prove to you that they've done their homework, and they'll be completely gut level. They'll be third-party certified environmentally preferable products. That's the new term. It's 3P, EPP.
Oh, my. They just try to make it challenging for us, don't they?
Yeah, another acronym.
Well, so I know you've been active with the Apex initiatives, and there's a big push right now within the Apex program to develop some green initiatives. Can you give us a little insight on what's going on with that and what's the status at this point?
Well, you're calling me right now from what's called the adjudication process. The 9 standards, the 9 categories for sustainability in the hospitality industry are being finalized right now. We expect that they're going through a rewrite right now to make sure that we satisfied other people's concerns, because they were put out, and the entire sustainability committee, not just a subcommittee of hospitality, has looked them over and shown us where we needed to, brush them up here and there and make sure we don't forget this or that. So that's basically what we're doing right now. I broke away from a meeting where we were in the middle of the AV sector category.
So what are some of the categories? Can you?
Sure. There's AV. Let me see if I can memorize now. There's accommodations, AV, communications, destinations, food and beverage, on-site, venue, transportation, and I think that's all of them. I hope I got them all, but there's 9 of them.
Okay, and I would assume exhibits is part of that too.
There you go. That's the last one. Thank you.
Okay.
I always forget exhibits. That's terrible, B.
Well, and that's, obviously that's where my focus is, being a trade show consultant, and I know that's, a lot of people, they don't stop and think about all the waste that they're creating at a show, not just, things beyond the badge holders and the bags like you talked about, but, things within the displays themselves, the amount of giveaways and literature and things that they bring. I know when you and I talked the other day, I was telling you about a show that I was recently involved with where we went around afterwards as the exhibitors were packing up and just carried a big empty box and offered to pick up any tchotchkes that they were going to toss, and just collected all of those and took them to the housekeeping department in the hotel, which, those are the most overworked, underappreciated people in the whole hotel. And so they were thrilled to get, pens and keychains and calendars and, lip balms. I mean, it was a great way to feel like we weren't just tossing that into a dumpster. It was going to somebody who was actually going to use it. Absolutely.
Because a lot of times you see these people that are typified as tire kickers, and they walk around and they end up with 2 bags they're carrying full of everything they can have, and you think, do people really want those things? And then, lo and behold, you take them downstairs to the people in housekeeping, and there's a lot of people that find uses for those. So
and even the extra bags or anything that's being tossed like that, you can stop and think about who might want this. I know some shows that I've been involved with, depending on what they had left over. I know one exhibitor I can remember in particular used those big foam swimming noodles in their display, and they took those to a local school when they left town. So, just think about who might want to use some of this stuff. It's not necessarily trash.
Right, exactly. It was good thinking on their part. And one of the things that we exhibit at probably something in the vicinity of 24 shows a year. And so one of the things that we thought about doing is that we would, everything that we would have in our booth would be very portable. So what we've done is we've gone to banner stands. We're going to build everything that we have is going to be made either of wood or recycled aluminum in terms of the transportation of the product. We're even building the booth, the actual the traveling case, so that it folds into a table, so that we don't even need the table anymore that they would give us.
Right.
I'll go back in the same container, and then to display some of the things that we have. They're all those products. Let's just say the fixtures or apparatuses. They're all made of wood. There's no metal that assembles them. There's no glue or anything else. So they're all these kind of like a Lincoln log, sort of a Legos that you just assemble these things, and then they all disassemble and go all back into the box. So that it's very, very, very light. And very easy, and it's the same thing basically each place we go, because we really believe that ultimately, you have to do this if you really want to have a real small, carbon footprint. And one more thing I think that's really important, and it dawned on me the other day, and maybe I shared this with you before we got on this call, and that is that there's a lot of time and effort that's been put in over the years to educate the exhibitors when they need to get their carpet ordered and when they need to get their flowers ordered, and if they're going to have a photographer, and when they how big their booth can be in terms of how tall, and so it doesn't obscure somebody else's sight lines, and how far they can extend it out into the aisle. And all these different things about pre and during the show, but there's never anything that tells anybody, and this is how you need to leave your area at the end of the event. And the other thing that we could do would be not only to have that component of it, but we ought to have some sort of incentives, not sticks, carrots, and incentivize the whole process. For those exhibitors that leave their area just as good or even better than the way they found it, I mean, give them something for that. Just by recognizing them as like these exhibitors did an incredibly good job of leaving the area where there was just absolutely, you couldn't even tell they were there. Mm-hmm. I just think that if we started to do some of those kind of things, you could give them a discount on next year's, space. You could give them, free passes for their best clients. There's a lot of things that we give out to people for doing different things, but we don't incentivize too often. Hey, let's make this place nice and clean, just like the way we found it.
Right. That's a good point because, like you said, there's a lot of information put out there as to how to prepare for the show. But for the exhibitors who are trying to do something afterwards and do the right thing, they don't necessarily know what direction they need to go. So I think that's great. That should just be a part of the show guide or the exhibitor guide to just tell them, okay, here's our recycling plan. Here's what we have lined up for you. These are the options. If you have this to recycle, here's what you do with it. And that way the ones who, or hopefully everybody who wants to participate would know exactly what they need to do, and they don't have to figure it out on their own.
Exactly. There's one show, I don't know if I should mention who they are, but I can tell you that in terms of if you want to take the leap, they had a part of their revenue stream was putting ads in the guide, the exhibit guides, and so they had spaces just like you would in a magazine or a newspaper or anything else, and it was a pretty good revenue stream. But what they decided to do was to put the entire guide on the internet and actually then sell banner ads along with the guide on the internet. And when at the end of the day, when they calculated how much they saved by not, buying those paper guides, not shipping them all over the place, all the postage, they ended up saving, I guess the net effect was where it cost them $60,000 a year. They ended up with a net gain of $15,000.
Wow.
It was actually much better for everybody, including the environment, and that was a big gamble for them because that was a nice revenue stream for them before. So I think that there's a lot of things like that. If you just begin to, people will share the information, and they're going to. There's people out there right now that are telling you about what they've done and how many years they've done it, and it helps if we'll all share that information with each other, and then throw caution to the wind and and find out that the breeze is not so bad after all. He said that's too scary. So.
Well, and that's the thing. Like you said, we can all learn from each other. It's not that every exhibitor and every show has to figure it all out for themselves. And I think that's what's great about these Apex initiatives that you're working on is that those will give everybody an idea of, okay, these are starting points. These are the things to think about. And then they can, like you said, get as creative as they want from there.
That's right. That's
so what are some simple steps, then, that every exhibitor can do right now to try to make a difference?
Well, at one point in time, I would have said that reduce, reuse, recycle was passé. And anymore, this is going to get a little bit complicated, but I think I can wind it back down to simplicity. First of all, it's not 3 R's. It's actually 4. It's reduce, reuse, recycle, and repurpose. And you really need to know the difference between reuse and recycle. A lot of times people will say they're going to recycle their badge holders. Well, they're not really recycling them. They're actually reusing them. So you need to be sure when you're talking about these words what you're actually doing. Recycling the badge holder would be to scrap it, send it back, and have it cut up and remade into plastic again.
Right.
But if you just sit down for a second, just like I was talking about at the beginning of this, and you say to yourself, do you really need to buy all those products? Okay, and do you really need to get them from so far away? I mean, shouldn't you start to, first of all, think about how can I reduce the amount of products that I have, without having to, without exposing myself to being ill-equipped if attendance swings upwards, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if it does something like that nowadays, that's an abnormal thing. It's a good thing, but you're going to find a supplier that's going to help you out, and they'll bail you out if that needs to be done. So you really need to go into this assuming that you need to reduce things, and then reuse is a tough one. I mean, there really isn't all those different things that you can reuse. It depends on the size of your meeting. But, if you bought products that have been reused, buy as much as you possibly can that's been recycled, because that meant it got diverted from going to a landfill. And with paper, you never want to go with bright papers. Most of the papers that you see out there that are for marketing purposes, you never want to go any higher than 60% and never any lower than 20% recycled content. Because if you go higher than that, you actually have expended more fossil fuels bringing in all these different, materials to try to get it to the point where it's over 60% than you've actually saved if you just want to have gotten virgin. So you want to use a recycled content about that sort of a range. And then I guess at the end of the day, we already talked about some of the recycling things, but one of the things you want to start looking for are, we talk about community stakeholders, and, the excess we'll give those to a school, like you were talking about those noodles. A better way to do this is that there's a place called BolderPath, and that place is into nothing but repurposing. And I don't think they're the only ones in the United States, but they're definitely the role model. If you send them the banners at the end of your event, you'll actually be like if you made a deposit with bottles or something, because they'll take those banners and they'll make all the signage and anything that you have that's of a fabric of any type, and they'll combine it with other products like bicycle tires, if you can believe it, and inner tubes and things that you'd never dream of, and they'll make them into something that you can then resell and as a sponsorship, actually, to somebody for next year. But it has got all of these different things from the previous year on it, okay? And there's a myriad of things. You can make neck wallets, you can make messenger bags, you can make
that's fun.
Laptop cozies, let's call them. but there's those kind of things, and that's called repurposing or second life. And if you just look around, just start going through that one by one. It's just something that'll be like a snowball rolling down the hill, because somebody will get another idea and then another idea.
Well, and I think that's the point, too, is, like you said, not having to come up with it all yourself, but start looking around and finding what other people are already doing and what resources are out there. So I think that's great. I'll have to have you send me the link to that so we can include it in the show notes.
Be more than happy to. They're great guys, and they know exactly how much their carbon footprint is, which is another really good thing. You can show that to everybody. This is exactly what our carbon footprint is.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all of the up-to-date information on what's going on right now in the industry as far as trying to make us a more green, responsible industry. I think the trade show business has long been one of the largest contributors to the environmental problem, like you said, leaving behind all this mess at the end of a show. So I think it's great that everybody's starting to work together to try to fix that problem. So we would love to have you back at some other time down the road. Maybe once all of the Apex initiatives get ironed out, you can come back and you can give us more of an outline of some of the different concepts there.
I'd love to do that. I'm flying at the end of the week to Paris to help work on the ISO standards for the 2012 Olympics in London. So I'll have 2 weeks back-to-back of working on standards, and they're totally different over in Europe than what we're doing here. But the two of them combined, I think, will be unstoppable. Great.
Well, it's great to know that everything's headed in the right direction. So thank you for being with us today, Scott.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Trade Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues as long as it is shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the show notes. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights. Be sure to check out our show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. Until next time, I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening.